Good afternoon. My name is Scott Ritter. Allow me to introduce myself for those who don't know me. I'm a former United States Marine Corps intelligence officer. I participated in Operation Desert Storm and served as the Chief Weapons Inspector for the United Nations in Iraq. My main interests are international relations and armed conflicts in different parts of the world. I am convinced that we all should know a little more about a person who, to the applause of those I call the global elite, is ready to fight to the last Ukrainian, President Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. President, there have been numerous publications about you, but everything seems to disappear from the web. Your image is carefully managed, and not without reason. You immediately understood why I named my film Agent Zelensky, didn't you? Let's begin.
You have had many film roles. Which one is your favorite? I would say that Servant of the People is probably my favorite.
The year is 2015. It's the premiere of the first season of Servant of the People series. According to the credits, the producer was Volodymyr Zelensky. In reality, he wasn't producing it by himself. Instead, his promotion had begun. No wonder such a role became one of his favorites. Zelensky portrayed the character Vasily Goluborodko, a school history teacher who becomes the president of Ukraine.
I want to compare that situation to situation where, for example, you come into the plane, you board in, and you take in your seat, and now you see that man who look like a pilot, who dressed like a pilot, who speak like a pilot, greeting passengers, but who is not a pilot at all, who is an actor, who played a pilot in response for your life.
Before the presidential elections, no one had seen a single press conference from the showman. Only interviews and videos were broadcast. Well, you understand, it makes it possible to retake or rewrite a dumb answer. Almost all statements Zelensky made were on behalf of the cinematic president, Goluborodko.
To all the people who want to quarrel with us, to divide our country, to separate us by color, by language, and so on, to all of you, I can't speak for myself, as I am a person of culture, so let one of the characters familiar to everyone, Vasily Goluborodko, say it. And all the rest of you, villains, go to hell. In all this story, the Ukrainian population became the object of manipulation. The creation of the TV series Servant of the People, in which he was prepared for his role, marked the beginning of imposing an image on people that he could be a potential head of state. And after that, he ran for elections. It was an absolutely skillful manipulation.
Now watch the hands. The final third season of Servant of the People was released just 4 days before the first round of the presidential election. Vasily Goluborodko emerged victorious, became the head of the country, and transformed it into a powerful and prosperous nation. Damn. This is the best pre-election campaign in the history of mankind. And it worked. In real life, on the 21st of April, Volodymyr Zelensky defeated Petro Poroshenko with over 70%, 23% of the votes. Clearly, such a scenario was not created in Ukraine, nor by Ukraine. Here, our compatriots are ahead of the entire planet.
The role of Hollywood in Washington, D.C., it is, first of all, it's not the decision makers, but this is creators of idea, concepts. So if the idea flying well with the audience, you can repeat that idea in real life, in real politics, and it's gonna play. So this is similarity in that Servant of People TV series and a film of Chris Rock produced and directed Head of State, when it was a black president who come from a Democratic Party and served the people.
And if this works, why not replicate the scheme in a country close to Russia? And why not elect someone there based on the same principle? Someone who is unconditionally following orders.
That is a carefully prepared operation by one of the intelligence services, or all of the intelligence services in the United States and in NATO, to make sure that their guy is in charge and will do what they tell him to do, rather than somebody who has ideas of his own.
A carefully prepared operation by one of the intelligence agencies. What a revelation. Michael, thank you for this. It allows us to look at the following facts with an understanding of who is behind them. Well, let's figure out how and with whose help Washington started pushing actor and comedian Zelensky.
Ihor Valerievich Kolomoisky. Do we have any connection? Yes, of course. Well, we have business relations. We are TV partners. We all work for these. How many? 5 or 6 families.
5 or 6 families. Was I rewatching The Godfather just now? As if Zelensky is talking about the mafia. And it seems to be true. Igor Kolomoisky is a billionaire and an oligarch. Currently, he is under investigation by a U.S. federal court for money laundering. Back then, he was a figure of importance, even across the ocean.
In 2014, Kolomoisky becomes the uncrowned king of Ukraine. Not only the governor, not only the ruler of Ukrnafta, and head of the bank that is much stronger than any state bank. He became the leading oligarch.
8 years ago, why was it decided to make Kolomoisky the key player in the operation to bring Zelensky to power? In 2015, Petro Poroshenko nationalized his main assets, such as the Ukrnafta company and later private bank. There was undoubtedly a personal vendetta at play. During the presidential elections, Kolomoisky was happy to criticize Poroshenko on his 1+1 channel, and at the same time to support Zelensky. Is it possible to say that it was Kolomoisky who brought Zelensky to power? Definitely not. Mr. Volodymyr has other puppeteers behind the scenes.
Are you dependent on Ihor Valerievich? And could it mean that after your victory in the presidential elections, Kolomoisky will rule Ukraine? I am a completely independent person. No offense, but a man who could control me hasn't yet been born.
If Zelensky was really on that rope of Kolomoisky, I predict the private bank will be run by Kolomoisky again, but it's not happened. So that means he has no obligation to do more. He just not putting him in a jail, and that's enough for Kolomoisky to be very thankful for him. After that, he will start playing the card as his masters of puppet want.
By the time Zelensky came to power, these puppeteers had already provided him with a financial cushion. It's doubtful that anyone remembered his earnings from the movies.
Regarding Zelensky and his inner circle, it is also important to take into account all the manipulations and financial frauds that characterize this team. Firstly, Zelensky concealed some parts of his stakes in companies before the presidential elections. And then, in particular, his mentor, Kolomoisky, used them for money laundering.
Empty words? By no means. As I mentioned, we will operate with facts. In the fall of 2021, investigative journalists published the so-called Pandora Papers. Nearly 12 million confidential documents from financial companies in different countries were revealed, including offshore data on 35 world leaders. Volodymyr Zelensky and his partners from the Cartel 95 studio were among them. The Ukrainian president indeed owned offshore companies, including a stake in Maltex Multi-Capital Corporation. Zelensky modestly omitted this information in his declaration. But most importantly, in 2012 to 2016, Kolomoisky transferred $41 million to Zelensky's offshore company.
He could be jailed in a normal country for such an offense.
But this is Ukraine, and Zelensky is its president. And according to the offshore documents, he is a very wealthy president.
Are you planning to use the state residences? Guys, let some kids live in these residences. Like some vacation camps for people who really need it.
In my opinion, it sounds cute, especially when you don't know about the residences he owns. Ready to find out? Let's go. Firstly, a villa in Miami for himself, worth $34 million. I've been to Florida and can understand the taste of the president of Ukraine. Secondly, a house in Israel for his parents on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. It's worth $8 million. Europe, Zelensky prefers Italy. Tuscany, the best wines. By the way, one of the most expensive resorts in the country, Forte del Marbi. Houses here are worth their weight in gold. In 2017, together with his wife, he bought a villa 600 meters from the sea. According to the declaration, it was worth about $3.8 million at that time. Is that all? Not at all. From the south, we moved north. Not to Siberia, of course, but to London. Old Center, legendary Baker Street, opposite the Sherlock Holmes Museum. There's another Zelensky residence, an apartment worth $3 million. Why? Probably to stay while visiting his owners.